Call meeting to order at 7 p.m. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda if there's no changes? Councillor Cutler. Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler that the agenda be accepted as presented.
All in favor? Approved. Adoption of minutes from November 12th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of November 12th, 2024 as presented.
Councillor Zimmer, question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer that the regular meeting minutes of November 12th, 2024 be accepted as presented.
All in favor? Approved. Delegations. 4.A, Claresholm RCMP. Abe?
The RCMP Sergeant Pelche is here to present the Q2 second quarter report from the RCMP.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abe, Mr. Mayor, esteemed councilors, yes. Correspondence had been sent off, I'll just start by this, through the CAO, Mr. Tinney, about some upcoming things that are maybe coming in within the RCMP, in particular our detachment. Body-worn cameras are being rolled out. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but it's going to be kind of a lengthy process in order to get the infrastructure in place. We still don't have the server for it yet, and everything else that needs to be done in order to have it pretty much secured, almost like our WatchGuard cameras are in our cars. So it's going to be a tedious process. They're talking 12 to 18 months for a complete rollout. Once we have this fully operational, we'll advise Mayor, Council, and then the community as well, just to let them know that we do have these things, and we are, in fact, using them. So just kind of a heads up for now. 2 members have been trained up so far from my unit. They went to Edmonton for that, and we're supposed to have the rest, well, hopefully the rest done up either this week or next, or the first week of December, utilizing the fire hall as a training center for us. I think Kelly was kind enough to open that up for us, so that'd be good. Also, there's a public consultation tool coming out that'll be launched in early 2025, I guess, most for the general public, I guess. This initiative is being launched in order to solicit feedback from RCMP stakeholders such as yourselves, with the goal of increasing transparency of policing, just like the body-worn cameras are, to contribute to our vision of becoming an inherently open organization. This public consultation tool will be secure and confidential for our participants, and who will remain anonymous, of course. So there's an email here, but I'll publish that in the newspaper, provide it to you in 2025 sometime. There's no point sending it now. People will forget. Okay, as far as staffing goes real quick, still no update on our new detachment. That's probably going to be quite a ways off yet. I have 6 members working out of 7 allotted, and I'm going to be losing another one shortly to 9 months of pat leave coming up, probably sometime next month. So gain 1 for a couple months, and then another one goes. Okay, moving on to the order report as far as traffic, in this case speeding. We were successful in laying 15 charges for speeding related offenses. I didn't bullet down to where these were, whether they be school zones or not, because sometimes it's hard. There's no place for me to check school zone on the system, just overall speeding. I could have to go into each and every one of them in order to find out if it was a school zone ticket or a highway ticket or in-town ticket. But these were all within the city limits of Claresholm primarily that these occurred. Our goal is slightly off track, but I'm confident that we will meet the goals that's were set forth. One of the members that is back from his pat leave, he's a pretty good traffic guy, so he will definitely help us increase those stats. And other traffic related items. On top of those, we laid 3 seat belts, 7 charges for other moving violations, 4 charges for no insurance, and as you know, those are pretty expensive. 26 charges for other non-moving, say not having a valid driver's license, stuff like that, right? 2 charges for failed to remain at an accident scene, and 2 charges directly of due care and attention. So those usually end up in accidents. 1 charge for driving while it's suspended, and 1 charge for using a cell phone. Any questions on that? On the traffic?
Well, I think that's a pretty significant number at 133 for the quarter. It's good.
Well, yeah, 133 reported traffic infractions.
Okay.
Like, those are reported by the public. We get a lot of driving complaints on the highway, of course, and a lot of times it's hard for us to intercept those vehicles, I'll be honest. By the time it goes through 911 and gets to my office, 10 minutes has gone by.
Even though 63 charges is fairly aggressive too, so it's good. It's happening.
Well, I'm kind of on my guys to encourage enforcement in that area.
2 check stops we got?
Yep.
Where?
Usually the guys like to get together with the sheriffs if they're around and Fort McLeod. So usually around Granham Corner, or they'll set up in 519 or even along 520.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So, crime reduction, as far as property crime goes and compliance checks, 17 compliance checks were conducted on persons with various conditions. Most of these individuals have been involved with property crimes and drug offenses in the community and are waiting in court. Some of them are on court action or court-imposed conditions. Other ones are on probation orders or release orders by the courts. So until their court matters are done, or they're done, but they're still on conditions to behave themselves. So far, we haven't deemed anybody non-compliant, but we've had late charges after the fact when we find people breaching in the course of the day when they're not supposed to be out, and we find them out. We find them shoplifting with people they're not supposed to even be with. So that happened just recently too, so, yep. So I find those checks are currently on track, and I think they're going to exceed just like last year. And we're conducting these checks, of course, at random dates and times, sometimes twice a night, just to keep them guessing. Foot patrols, we've done at least 27 foot patrols within the communities. This includes of walking around various parts of Claresholm, the MD, around the airport, Staveley, and places such as that. So the guys are being out walking around. I'm not going to lie, it probably will slow down as the weather gets kind of chilly. But they will be out. If there's any events going on in the park, like a Christmas thing coming up again, sometimes the guys might get out, walk around in that too, barring any calls for service, of course. This has had an impact, especially on the airport. We were getting quite a few calls from the MD. And when the guys started kind of increasing their presence out there, whether on foot or on vehicles, pretty much dropped right off. So they're seeing us out there too, so they may not like that. Substance abuse, we've received a couple of reports of potential trafficking in certain narcotics, but these came in via anonymous reports. So the members have tried to corroborate this information but haven't been able to. I'm talking Crime Stoppers. So we just can't rely on the one tip. We have to corroborate the information that we receive in order to validate that something's been going on in order for us to action it. And unfortunately, fighting drugs is an intelligence-led, intelligence-driven way to combat it, if I can say, because a lot of people won't come up and tell us about who's selling drugs, but members of the community may hear something too from somebody talking. So that's the best way that we can enforce that. Right now, I'll be honest, we don't have any major problems in this community that we're aware of. So hopefully that's kind of all we ask. It's in every community. We cannot avoid it, unfortunately, the way the laws are now, that possession of a controlled substance is still not prosecutable under federal statute, which kind of, in my opinion, it just enables it. But this is the federal government, so. Any questions on my report? Oh, during this time period too, the second quarter, I think that's what, May, June, July 1st to the end of September, we took in 715 files, 32 are unfounded, so 683 actual files that we took in during that time period, or complaints from the public.
Wow. That's a lot.
Seems high.
Seems high.
But and I can say that we've had nothing major, like the last, I think, was those break-inners we had during the first week of June, and those matters are still pending. We have 2 accused so far, just waiting court. But nothing as significant such as that, if I can say, since. So I think overall, we're doing pretty good in this community, I think, and the public is really helping us out too.
How long has it taken cases to get through court?
Well, Jordan says 18 months. However, like I said, whenever the Crown's ready, whenever defense is ready, because a lot of times things get adjourned over. So yeah, once it's in the court system, it's out of our control.
Yeah.
We just have a task just to monitor. Yeah.
Are you
Yep.
finding a lot of the petty stuff picking up?
Some mischiefs here and there, a little bit of shoplifting, but not that much. Not that much. We're getting a lot of like assist general public type things like well-being checks, welfare checks, suspicious vehicles driving complaints, and a lot of things like that kind of do take a member's time in a way, and just like a lot of petty stuff. I say petty, I mean just,
Yeah.
nothing major.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of people walking down back alleys with flashlights. Makes me suspicious.
Let us know. Like I said, there's more of you than there is of us, so we rely on the public to call in anything that looks out of the ordinary. If it's not your neighbor out there who you normally see, okay, well, who is that guy? Who knows what they're up to? And I can say that, car shopping and that sort of thing might increase this time of year. They're going to look for parcels, they're going to look for packages of people leaving their vehicles because they know they're out shopping. So we want everybody to be mindful of that.
So what you said earlier too, we phone 911, it takes 10, 15 minutes for you guys to get that phone call.
Yep.
But you're still suggesting that people phone in and report suspicious activity?
Well, yes, well, you can probably phone the back line, which is a 625-4444.
Right,
And I think that'll take you right to the dispatcher.
Oh,
So you'll
okay.
bypass 911.
okay,
So it'll be that much quicker. Like during the day, they get answered right
From the
away,
off,
right?
yeah.
But in the evenings, if you call 911, it said there'll probably at least a 10-minute
right,
lapse before the members actually get dispatched to it.
okay. So phoning the 625-4444 number
Yeah.
will be quick. I mean, that's just one of the complaints, you phone and then somebody shows up 20 minutes, well, they're gone or what, but, I mean, if you don't report it, they don't know where their trends are either, right? So,
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
we need to know these things. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people are reporting a lot of things, like it's just natural. But the more they do, the more information we'll have in a certain area.
So you like the
Is there a
phone calls?
Hotspot in town, so to speak.
so you like the phone calls?
Yes.
I like it.
Oh, absolutely. We're just trying to.
Well, that's what I mean, that's what we talk about, right? You say, hey, phone in. Well, what is
it's
that,
out of the
what's that
ordinary-
gonna do, right? And it's just that whole, no, that's what they need, that's what the
Even if we
support-
can't do anything, right, at least we'll have a record of it.
Right.
And we'll know, okay, well, where are the problems going on in town?
Yeah.
Like what areas? And that's kind of what we correlate that, and we just say, okay, we're going to step up patrols in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's, I mean, we get a lot of people coming in on a coffee on council and stuff like that, and of course, the speed and, the petty theft and those types of things, and, well, I'm not phoning because they don't show up for 20 minutes anyhow, and, well, then if you're not phoning, then nobody knows about it, right? So they tell us to come to you guys, and you guys come and report, but they gotta, everybody's gotta do their part, right? So I get it, but I just wanted to make sure that that's what you guys
Yeah,
want.
no, absolutely. And like I said, that's why I don't come to your coffee meetings.
Feel free. Feel free.
I think it was requested to have him here one time, I think it was.
Probably take all the attention away from you guys. For the better part of it
Like you
anyway.
said, feel free.
It also helps too, right? 'Cause then you can see what parts of town get called at what times, at least you can be like, sure, you might not get there this time, but after, during this time of the day, we seem to get a lot of calls in this area, so you can kind of move to that area and.
Yep. And we got people up at the Airdrie that'll, in the intelligence unit, that will actually put that stuff together and actually come a map, kind of highlight certain areas. If we ask them to do that for us, they'll quickly do one up. And then we'll at least have a targeted area more or less where the hot spots are, if I can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if people aren't going to let us know what's going on, we don't know.
No, good. Thank you for your information.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Yep. Take care.
Appreciate
Stay
that.
warm on your foot patrol.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next up, 4B, Old Man River Regional Services Commission. Abe?
Yes, the CAO of Old Man River Regional Services Commission, which is our planning service commission, Lenz Kuiper, is here to discuss the service and some increases and some service levels, I believe, as well. We have an attachment there on his report in the agenda.
Okay, great. Thanks, Abe. Mayor, council, administration, guests. My name's Lenz Kuiper. I'm the CAO of the Old Man River Regional Services Commission. We call it ORSC for short because it's a mouthful usually. I kind of wish I was here under other circumstances. It's never good to announce rate increases, and it is important though, and that's why I thought it'd be better if I was here in person to address those rate increases. ORSC has been around for about 70 years, and we've been doing planning for both rural and urban municipalities in southern Alberta for that entire time, and Claresholm has been one of our long-standing partners over those 70 years as well. And we feel we have a good relationship with all of our municipalities, and unfortunately, we occasionally run into some funding challenges, and this year happens to be one of those years. And it's not just us. I'm hearing this from utility commissions, water commissions, municipalities themselves. Right, they're having a hard time making ends meet, and things aren't getting better. Unfortunately, we rely on membership fees to pay our fixed expenses. And in the past, we were fortunate enough to have that matched by the province. And that was prior, of course, to 1995, but there was a planning component there. And then after the MGA was put in place, a lot of those fees and those services were downloaded onto the municipalities. So we kind of reinvented ourselves at that point, went back out and grew from there. So at this point, yes, we rely wholly on membership fees, fee for service, which is things we do or that we collect when we do statutory plans for our municipalities, and we rely on subdivision fees as well. And unfortunately, the fee for service and the subdivision fees aren't, well, they're highly variable. They change year to year. They depend a lot on the philosophy of our municipalities. We have Cardston County, for instance, in the south that has a very different take on how planning looks than Ranchlands to the west. So we get lots of subdivision revenue from Cardston. We get no subdivision revenue whatsoever from Ranchlands because they don't allow subdivision there. And as planners, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that we have uniqueness in southern Alberta and that municipalities have a choice with what they can do and what they want to do with their land base. But it does present a funding difficulty for us. So to cut to the chase, I guess, I better put my glasses on for this. There is a fee increase this year for all municipalities. And unfortunately for the town of Claresholm, that has risen to $65,566. And I should say this is a proposed increase at this point. Our executive, of which your mayor is part of, has recommended this to our board to pass, but it doesn't mean it's done yet. The board may look at it and make some alterations or changes. So yes, there is a fee increase. I should also add that we used your total equalized assessment to arrive at those fees. And so it's not just our increase, but the town of Claresholm has had a increase in your equalized assessment, a substantial one in the past year. And that's due to a number of things. One is growth in your community, but the other was the annexation that Claresholm had recently. You brought in more land, so obviously your assessments went up there. The executive, well, and myself too, we are attempting to meet all of our fixed expenses, so salary and benefits, software, utilities, insurance, things of that nature, from our membership fees. We've always tried to do that. We've never been successful at fully meeting that, and we've subsidized our organization, our commission, with those subdivision fees and those fee-for-service elements. And I should mention that they do vary wildly. In 2007, we had $1.3 million worth of subdivision activity. Last year, we had $2,300 worth of subdivision activity. Right, so that bounces and ping pongs all over the map. It depends on the economy, depends on activity in the municipalities, depends on the inventory of lots and things that you have in your community. So it's not good business practice to depend on those fees to cover our fixed expenses. I should say too that we do try to keep our fixed expenses in check. We run a very lean operation. Unfortunately, though, we do have a building, and we do have roofs to repair, we have furnaces, we have things of that nature as well that need to be kept up. The assets that we have are also your assets, because ORSC is a shared service. It is something that is shared by the 40 municipalities in southern Alberta. We are essentially your planning department, and our building is your building. Should ORSC fold tomorrow, that $1.4 million asset would be divided amongst our members. What else can I tell you? I can't promise there won't be an increase in the future. Our executive, I think, has been really good at rolling out a 3-year plan. So we could have captured all our needs this year, but they are taking a little bit of a strategic look at backing off on that and doing that over a 3-year plan, and who knows, the economy might pick up. We're adding new members as well. We added County of 40 Mile this year. We're looking at bringing the town of Tabor back in. So those things do bring some money in, but they also bring some costs, because we do need to add resources such as planners to our fold to make those things happen. So I think the executive does have a good plan to bring forth. They are trying to cover this over the next 3 years. We are also working with the province. We have tried to get funding from them, but today they just announced that they cut the Calgary Regional Partnerships funding and the Capital Regional Board's funding as well. So I think any inroads that we were hoping to get there are now off the table, unless they come up with some new funding models. Unfortunately, too, as a commission, we do have to follow the MGA. Our audits are done yearly, and they are provided to the Minister of Municipal Affairs as well. He oversees our operations, even though we get no money from him. We're also not able to apply for any grants because we're not a municipality. We have found workarounds for that, though. We do partner with our municipalities. Pincher Creek recently just partnered with us to do some lighting in our office, so that's been a really good thing. So we try to work around the rules and the systems where we can to keep things going. Our big expense this year has been software. It's climbed from about 10 years ago from $12,000 to well over $90,000 now. And that's largely because everything's on a subscription basis. I'm sure you're finding the same thing happening here, where we used to take a disc and share it amongst all our planners and pop it into the computers. Those days are done, and now everything has a subscription and has a yearly cost attached to it. And we are extremely software heavy. We have mapping, GIS capabilities, all that sort of stuff. So in short, yeah, I'm not happy to announce there's a fee increase. I think we're looking at prudently stretching it over some time, and we hope that our municipalities will understand that and will help us through these lean times. And I know you're also trying to keep your budgets in check as well. I should mention that there are years where we haven't had increases, where we've used those subdivision fees and things when they are good to keep things in line. And again, we'll continue to do that where we can as well. But the unfortunate part is this year we're in our 3rd year of a deficit. We've eaten through all our reserves, so it's time to come from somewhere. And that's, essentially it. We add new services as well to try to bring in revenues. We've added subdivision development appeal board services, assessment review board services, all those kinds of things too, to bring in revenues. So this is probably a good time to take any questions that you may have, or to head for the door quick before you throw stuff at me.
I would run. But with this increase, like, you want to institute this in 2025,
Yes.
and you're not going to guarantee that there is no increases after that point. But with this increase, are you still putting money into reserves for the future?
Not this year, no, because we haven't been able to. So this budget doesn't project any increases. It actually projects us breaking even. And we are a nonprofit, by the way, so we do try to,
Be as
zero
close as you can.
balance
Yeah,
things
yeah,
out
I get that.
every year. But yes, we realize we can ask you guys to do that. We're also not raising any of our other fees. We're not raising our subdivision fees or our fee for service at this point. It's purely on the members and on our fixed expenses.
I just wanted to say, Len's runs a tight ship. There's no extra expenses there. It's very well run, very tight, so that's why we're doing what we're doing. Councillor Kettles.
I appreciate you coming out and putting yourself on the firing line. So if I read this right, then Claresholm's kind of getting a double whammy in that we've had some increasing in our assessment, so our costs are, that's based on that, plus a percentage that you guys are increasing. Any sense of what that percentage is? That, is it 10%? Is it, and maybe it's in here, and I apologize if it is, I didn't read it.
No, it's not in there, but over the past 10 years, we're looking at a full increase of 38%, so that's over 10 years. So there's been some years, for instance, 2014, your actual fees went down 3.13%, and then in 2021, they were up 10%. Right, so it does fluctuate, and even with this model, because we're using total equalized assessment, some of our municipalities will go down. If their assessment
Right.
dramatically went down, we apply a mill rate, right, to both the urbans and the rurals, much like you do to businesses and to residences in your town. And so when that mill rate gets put out, it's the same for both those groups. And if your assessment went down, then your bill goes down as well. So yes, it can be hit or miss, and maybe this year there's a little more. Your assessment went up from 2023 almost $100,000, right, in a 2-year span.
Right.
Right, so there is a component there for sure, yeah.
So kind of the two.
I wouldn't call it a double whammy, though. It's not really doubling down on anything. It's just the reality of the time.
A fractional whammy.
Yes, yeah, that'll work. There are, and I'm going to be brutally honest here, there are other options too, right? I mean, we've looked at what private consultants charge for planning, and all of our intelligence basically puts that around $200 to $225 an hour, right? So there is, those as options. We, of course, hate to lose our members. We have long-standing relationships with them, and we think we provide a lot of value to you. I did include that in the package too. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes with the planners. I mean, they're doing 40 different municipalities. They see every possible type of planning issue known to humankind across their desk at some point. So they do learn from that. They're bringing you their best professional practices from the south here. They're also invited, across Canada to give talks, to give workshops. Even in the States, we go down there for conferences and things. Not at our cost. We have that picked up by them, of course. But Yeah, that's kind of how all that works.
Nice pivot.
Good
Yeah,
catch, I like it, I like it.
yeah. Well, I happen to be Dutch too, so
That makes
Well, he does run a tight
I
ship.
do run a
I get
tight
it,
ship,
I get
yes. So the other option is hiring your own planner. And we've certainly run the numbers on that. And the town of Tabor right now is looking for a planner. They're advertising that for an entire year. They're offering a salary of about $140,000 for that position. And then there's benefits on top of that. And then there's office space, utilities, all these other things. We're, basically looking anywhere from $200,000 to $236,000 to have your own planner. Right, so the $65,000 again is a fraction of that, right? But yes, that planner isn't here 40 hours a week either, so we do recognize that. And we do recognize too that the benefit of being with ORSC is a low fee, right? Is getting a service that's shared amongst your other communities for a good price.
Questions? Thank you, Lance.
Okay, thank you. And if there's anything else I can clear up or clarify, please give me a shout.
Yep.
And we'll go from there.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, action items, bylaw 5.8.1. Abe?
So we have a couple of operational borrowing bylaws on the agenda tonight, and we'll let the Director of Corporate Services, Jen, please speak to those bylaws.
Thank you. So before you, there's two operational borrowing bylaws, bylaw 1793 and 1794. And as per the Municipal Government Act, Section 215, municipalities may only borrow if such borrowing is authorized by a borrowing bylaw. So, and they should be renewed regularly, and they, in the case of the town, are being brought forward annually. So the first one is with regards to a revolving line of credit that the town has had for several years in the amount of $450,000. Currently, there aren't any funds that have been drawn on this line of credit. The purpose of it is if there is an emergency event, and just to ensure that the municipality has funds if they need it, or if there was any cash flow concerns for any reason. The second one is for the procurement cards, which we have with BMO, their MasterCards, and the authorized limit on those is $50,000 and are governed through the corporate credit card policy. So I've attached both bylaws here for council's consideration. I just want to note that in 2024, when the bylaw was brought forward, that the maximum interest rate within the bylaw was increased from 5% to 9% because of the increase in rates at the time. The line of credit with BMO does have an agreed interest rate of prime plus 0. And although prime rates have decreased, and as at the time of this report was at 5.95%, which is well below the 9, I left it the same in the bylaw, just with some of the uncertainty with rates. I do anticipate they will go down based on some of the economic reports, but maybe better safe than sorry. So with that, administration is hoping to get all 3 readings of both bylaws this evening.
Could I have a motion for any questions, discussion? Could I have a motion for borrowing bylaw 1793?
We'll start down there. Sure. Let's go
Okay.
around the table.
Around the table. Question?
Moved by Counselor Ross to give bylaw number 1793, the 2025 BMO operational borrowing bylaw regarding a revolving line of credit in the amount of $450,000. First reading.
All in favor? Second bylaw?
I can move that, please.
Question?
Moved by Counselor Kettle, skip bylaw number 1793, the 2025 BMO operational borrowing bylaw regarding a revolving line of credit in the amount of $450,000. Second reading.
All in favor? Approved. Question?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't bring this up before.
Mike?
Before we get to the third one, do we not have a motion to, all in favor to do a third before you pass a third?
Yes.
Okay.
For unanimous consent. Yes, I'll make that one.
Counselor Meister, question?
Moved by Counselor Meister for unanimous consent to give bylaw number 1793, the 2025 BMO operational borrowing bylaw regarding a revolving line of credit in the amount of $450,000. Third and final reading at the same meeting.
All in favor? Counselor Cutler makes a third and final motion. Question?
Moved by Counselor Cutler to give bylaw number 1793, the 2025 BMO operational borrowing bylaw regarding a revolving line of credit in the amount of $450,000. Third and final reading.
All in favor? Approved.
I'll give 1794 its first reading.
Question?
Moved by Counselor Zimmer to give bylaw number 1794, the 2025 AMSC operational borrowing bylaw regarding the town MasterCard in the amount of $50,000. First reading.
All in favor? Motion for, second motion. Question?
Moved by Counselor Ross to give bylaw number 1794, the 2025 AMSC operational borrowing bylaw regarding the town MasterCard in the amount of $50,000. Second reading.
All in favor?
I'll move the unanimous consent motion.
Question?
Moved by Counselor Kettles for unanimous consent to give bylaw number 1794, that 2025 AMSC operational borrowing bylaw regarding the town MasterCard in the amount of $50,000. Third and final reading at the same meeting.
All in favor? Approved.
No motion for the third and final reading.
Question?
Moved by Counselor Meister to give bylaw number 1794, the 2025 AMSC operational borrowing bylaw regarding the town MasterCard in the amount of $50,000. Third and final reading.
All in favor? Approved. Moving on, 5.B, delegation response. Thank you. Abe?
So, STARS visited the Shock Trauma Air Rescue Service, visited council at the last council meeting. Provided a yearly report update on their activities, number of calls, other pertinent information to the service, and kind of acknowledged that the town has been a sponsor since 2023 and had committed 2023, 2024, and 2025, so next year, to contribute $2 per capita. They requested that council provide a standing motion of a fixed rate sum, again at $2 per capita, in annual funding commencing in 2026. So we're just bringing this, administration is just bringing this back to council for decision.
Questions, concerns?
You got a
Counselor
question or
Ken-
concern? Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna make the
He's
motion.
just-
I'll just, I'm good with the $2 per capita. I'm not sure that I want to consider something happen in 2026 today. I think we have an agreement that ran through for the 3 years, if I understand, and that's great, but I don't know if I'm in favor of looking at a 2026 motion, but maybe I'm misunderstanding something.
Counselor Cutler?
I hear what you're saying, but I also think that they do a budget process where if they have a year in advance of their, if we get a new council next time or whatever, they can make a decision for the 27, 28 type of stuff. But I'm in favor of giving them a year's support, knowing that they got that coming to them for 2026.
Questions, comments, discussion?
I'll make the motion.
Counselor Cutler?
For 2026 then, not perpetually for, like, going forward, just for 2026?
Yeah, this was 2026 to 2028.
This is reoccurring.
Yeah, this is reoccurring, right?
Yep.
Any council can go back and,
Okay.
Yep.
right? Am I correct in that, Abe?
Also, I think, just to clarify this, I think with, like, the motion, sorry, the motion before was for $2 per capita, whereas this, they're just asking for a fixed rate of $7,750 a year, which isn't really too, it's a little bit more than
Yeah,
$2 per capita.
it was
It's like a couple $100.
300 and some dollars over top,
Yeah.
just to top it up to 77.50 from the presentation, right?
Right.
So, yeah,
So
that's,
that's why you guys kind of mentioned the $2 per capita, but that's
Right.
going away from
Yeah,
that,
and just doing a
starting in
flat rate.
2026.
yeah. So, I feel comfortable with making a motion for making it continuous. Any council can go back and discontinue any decision that's made, right? So, I think giving Stars that support from here on forward is a sign of good faith, so I'll still make that motion for the motion that's on the table.
I agree with Counselor Cutler. Any other questions, discussion? Question?
Moved by Counselor Cutler to approve yearly funding of $7,750 to Shock Trauma Air Rescue Services, STARS, starting with the 2026 fiscal year.
All in favor? Approved. Okay, next up, provincial government correspondence. Honorable Mike Ellis, Deputy Premier of Alberta. Abe?
Yeah, so council has some correspondence here from the province, the Deputy Premier of Alberta, regarding police governance regulation, police governance models. So they're just laying out a new structure and some legislation that's going to organize municipal, regional, and policing bodies, as well as a provincial policing advisory board. They note that the change will take effect on March 1st, 2025. And note that every community in Alberta serviced by the RCMP will be required to be represented by one of the following types of governance bodies. So there's a few different policing structures that exist in the province. And so the town of Claresholm falls under, on the second page there, communities policed under the provincial police service agreement. Basically this correspondence is about letting municipalities know that there will be community-led boards that will advise policing priorities and initiatives. Nothing, because of the way we're structured with the agreement with the province, nothing's required of the town, because we will fall under the provincial police service agreement, and so there's a provincial advisory board that will be coordinated by the province to represent communities like ourselves, those that are 5,000 and under. So, no action required from the town.
Thank you. Okay, Alberta municipalities, other government correspondence. Abe?
We talked about this last council meeting. There were 6 resolutions outstanding at the Alberta Municipalities Conference this year. There were 2 options for municipalities, or councilors rather, to provide feedback. One was to submit questions directly to the board, and the other is to attend a webinar. That is on the 28th of November from noon to 1:30, where they could have a chance to provide feedback on the outstanding resolutions. What happens after that is the board of directors actually votes, as opposed to the wider population of elected officials. They will vote on those remaining resolutions. So there's some registration links on there as well. Council, if you're interested in attending those.
Questions? Okay, local correspondence. Alberta Medical Association's section of rural medicine. Abe?
Sorry, just pulling it up here. So, I'm a little foggy on this one. I did read it, but I am a little foggy on it.
Me too.
They're looking into physician recruitment, rural physician recruitment, and it looks like there's going to be some granting. If someone on council knows a little bit more about this, I'll invite you to save me and speak to it. Apologies.
No, I don't have, again, I'm a little foggy on the area too, but it's interesting. My concern is, I'm trying to figure out who's applying for the grants. I don't know if the town applies for the grants, or
Individual doctors?
individual groups apply for the grants. We have a physician and recruitment committee. But I mean, to me, it's interesting. I haven't been able to look at it over the last week, but it's interesting. It's definitely something we should tap into if we can. I just need to do some more investigation. Yes.
I did do a little bit of reading about this, and from what I could gather, you're supposed to encourage rural physicians to apply for these grants. It's not like the municipalities, from what I read. It's not municipalities that apply for this, or the local clinics or anything like that. It's the physicians themselves, if they're interested in practicing in rural communities.
So it's just a wage subsidy
They
kind of.
apply. That's the way it read to me, anyway.
Yeah, I'll still take a look into it a little bit more, because it is interesting how $12 million came up for the rural. But yeah, no, I'll take a look as well and see if that's how it works.
Yeah, there's a slide deck, a link to a slide deck on a presentation on the grant opportunity.
But I can't get into it.
There's a link. We'll see if we can find that.
Yeah, I tried to.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, just a little bit. I'll look into it a little bit further too to find out.
Perfect. Thank you. Request for decision, Small Community Opportunity Program grant. Abe?
So there is a new grant opportunity in the province, Small Community Opportunity Program, or SCOP grant, that is currently accepting applications. Deadline is December 20th. And eligible products must align with one or more of the strategic directions in economic development in rural Alberta, which includes rural business support and entrepreneurship, support for labor force and skills development, marketing and promoting rural tourism, and lastly, rural economic development capacity building. So this, the administration is looking to do some website upgrades, and would like to apply to the SCOP program for those website upgrades. They did review this at the last week's Economic Development Committee. The committee was in support of this and asked that we bring this forward to council to support an application to the program. We are overdue, probably for a website upgrade. It's been 6 or 7 years, maybe. And we have done a little, administratively, a little bit of research, and sat down and did some demos with a few companies, and recommending that there's a company called Loop that we would like to pursue. The ceiling of the website updates would be $23,300, but 90% of that is covered, if successful, will be covered by the grant. We would be doing the upgrade with a mind towards, or a focus rather, on having some more economic development prominence on the website. So some landing pages for economic development initiatives and opportunities in town. And so that's the angle that we're going with there with the application. And in the process, get the whole website updated as well. So there is currently budget allocated in budget room in our budget, so there's funding in place. With 10% of the overall cost, we would be able to cover that. So there's no out-of-budget expense if we're successful.
Questions, discussion? Okay.
I can make that motion that ask administration to pursue that grant if it's available.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Kettles to instruct administration to submit an application to the Small Communities Opportunity Program grant for the website updates project.
All in favor? Approved. 5.F2. Letter of support for Willow Creek Brewery. Gabe?
So Willow Creek Brewery, which is a new business located at the west of Claresholm, 8 kilometers west of Claresholm. It's actually at the old water treatment plant. It has asked for a letter of support for their application through the Alberta Tourism Product Development Program. The purpose of the program is to assist entrepreneurs in developing and diversifying a new or existing tourism product. So they are looking to open up a brewery and campground out there. And so they have reached out to the town for town council for a letter of support, again, to the, beg your pardon, the Alberta Tourism Product Development Program. There is some attached correspondence from the brewery outlining the business and their plans, some information on what they intend to do.
Questions, concerns, discussion? Councillor Cutler.
I'll make that motion to offer them a letter of support.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to direct administration to write a letter of support for Willow Creek Brewery's application to the Alberta Tourism Product Development Program to be signed by Mayor Brad Schlossberger.
Question?
Just a quick comment. I don't know if anybody knows. I recall that the MD had some challenges with this application back in the day. I assume that got all resolved. We're not stepping on anybody's toes here.
This
In the
also,
package, it's all been approved. They got permits and stuff from the
Yep.
MD.
this come to EDC and it was signed, we signed a letter there. We have a member of MD Willow Creek on EDC.
No, it even says in the package that they got all their permits from the MD and stuff to go ahead and
Yep.
stuff, so.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's a good question, though. We did actually connect directly with MD staff outside of all the correspondence as well, and got the green light, thumbs up, so.
We have a motion on the floor. Question, please?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to direct administration to write a letter of support for Willow Creek Brewery's application to the Alberta Tourism Product Development Program, to be signed by Mayor Brad Schlossberger.
All in favor? Approved. Okay. Claresholm Skate Park Association. Ape,
So the Skate Park Association is looking to do a Phase 2 after completing the construction of the skate park this summer. Looking to do a Phase 2 and expansion. Some of that would be lighting, pathways, landscaping on the existing grounds, tidy that up, get some plans for that. They also want to expand the recreation facilities out there in some way, and are motivated to do some fundraising for that. What that looks like, we don't know right now. I think they want to do some community engagement to see what the community would like, and so we might see more from them in the future in that regard. However, they are looking for a motion from council, basically to put something on the record that council's in favor and is willing to allocate some land for them to do that. And what that does is that gives them, it just gives them, I guess, permission, for lack of a better word, or approval to go about and start doing some of the planning.
That land is right there where the skate park is
Yes.
already there.
So what we've recommended, I'll just move my cursor around on the screen, is this area out here. So it would be west of the structure, the skate park, and south of the walking path there.
any other questions, concerns?
No, I'll make a motion.
Councillor Ross? Question?
Moved by Councillor Ross to allocate town land west of the new skate park and south of the skate park walkway for future recreation development by the Claresholm Skate Park Association.
All in favor? Approved. Request for direction. Claresholm District Museum Board Storage Facility request. Abe?
Yeah, I should have mentioned on the previous item as well, both of these items, the skate park and the museum, actually went to our Facility Infrastructure Planning Committee this week. They both came to council previously, and given that council is considering, currently considering its recreation and culture facilities and how to maintain those and save for their replacement and repair, we thought it would be wise for council to talk about adding new facilities at that committee level prior to making any decisions. So this item was forwarded to the Facility Infrastructure Planning Committee last week. Council reviewed the museum's request to build a storage building, proposed to have it south of the exhibit hall, in basically the current museum grounds, but south where there's a green space. This is an item that the museum, Claresholm District Museum Board, have been looking for and been in need of for a long time. And council at the FIPC meeting did recommend that this come to council meeting for approval. And so they have asked for two motions or two approvals from council, which was to approval to utilize a portion of the museum grounds outlined in their plans for the purpose of a museum building, storage building, and to request approval to allow the museum board to develop a fundraising plan to support the realization of this project.
Discussion?
So they only want the land that the building is gonna save, not the whole rectangular parcel?
Yeah.
Just the footprint of the building?
Yes.
And that's south in between the museum and the community center? Or
The social center.
Social center?
Yes. I would
I
like
can
to
pull
make
that
the
up
first
here.
motion if there's no other questions.
tried to look at that one, but I know with all the yellow lines.
Yeah, there's a little bit extra in there.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Gas line, can't take straight.
Yeah, makes sense.
Councilor Meister would like to make the first motion. Question?
Moved by Councilor Meister to allocate town land south of the exhibit hall to accommodate the construction of a new storage building as presented by the Claresholm and District Museum Board.
All in favor? Approved. Second motion.
A motion for that fundraising plan.
Councilor Ross, question?
Moved by Councilor Ross to approve the Claresholm District Museum Board developing a fundraising plan for the future museum storage building.
All in favor? Approved. Congratulations.
I have a question.
Question?
So on that second movement there, to approve museum board to develop a fundraising plan, just a curiosity question, we have to give the board permission to do a fundraising plan?
We've
I just
worked,
didn't
we've
understand.
worked really close with administration to develop a plan to funnel our fundraising funds to the proper places.
Oh, okay, so we're working with type of, okay.
Yes.
No, I just didn't understand, I was just trying to figure out, I knew what it meant, but didn't quite know why.
That's a good question.
And it was a town facility.
Yeah,
So-
well, I just, yeah, no, it's good.
Right on.
Moving forward, I like it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, there's still more meeting, where you going?
Celebrate.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks for your efforts on it.
Yeah.
Okay, 5.F.5, Claresholm Fire Department.
Move it.
Abe?
So we do have a policy on the agenda for your consideration tonight, council, and it is policy, I just pull that up here. 5.1.25, volunteer firefighter tax credit policy. And so I'll just give you a bit of background on this policy and why it's here, council. So recruitment and retention have been a bit of challenge for the fire department for a while now, to the point that they have had to shrink down from 4 crews to 3 crews at one point. I believe their numbers currently are okay, but they have had some issues recruiting and retaining, and it's not an issue that they've historically maybe had to deal with, but something that a lot of municipalities and volunteer firefighters are currently finding themselves having to deal with, keeping their numbers up so they can maintain full crews and full response. So the fire chief, in an effort to find a solution to the problem, reached out to other fire departments and found that there were a couple other fire departments in the region that had a tax incentive policy in place, and they have had good results with those tax incentive policies. Essentially, there's a scale of hours that firefighters can serve throughout the year, and depending on how many hours they serve in volunteer, they can get different levels of rebates off their tax, their municipal taxes. This incentive program has been discussed at a committee level in town here with the Emergency Services Committee. So there's a couple councillors around the table that are familiar with this and have recommended that it come to council for approval. Essentially, the policy does proposes to provide tax rebates or tax incentives for firefighters who serve and volunteer up to 129 hours of service for the year, and they would be eligible for a $1,000 tax rebate if they hit that top service hours. The tax rate would be $1,000 on the municipal taxes or 75% of the assessed municipal taxes. So it will be one or the other, depending on how much the taxes are. Program would start January 1st, 2025, and eligible to members who completed service in 2024. And the program is eligible after 1 full year of service of the department. The way volunteer firefighters would log hours is responding to calls. That is 1 hour. They would get 1 hour credit per hour attended at the call, and training events is half an hour credit per hour attended of training. And so you can see the tax incentive there for personal service. There's also one for businesses who allow their workers or their staff to volunteer and leave work. This is often one of the, I guess, sometimes can be a challenge. It's hard to get called out at any hour, and so it's a bit of a challenge for fire departments to sometimes find employers who allow staff to leave. And so that credit is also available to businesses who have staff members who will leave for certain hours, and the scale is similar to hours of service. The tax rebate is greater for businesses, though, as you see in the schedule here, Council. Couple notes. The property tax rebate is only available. This is something we can only do for employees who live in town, or for volunteers who actually live in town. And so some MD volunteer firefighters may not be eligible for this. Well, they won't be if they live in the MD. The budgetary impact of this policy, we ran the numbers for 2023, and the hit on personal property taxes would be $11,250. Business property taxes, there weren't any businesses who would have qualified in 2023. And so to offset the impact, the fire department would cover a portion of this program to maximum, or proposing to a maximum of $15,000 per year, and by way of reducing transfer to capital reserves in an equal amount. So there's no proposed tax increase to cover the loss of taxes. The loss of taxes. It would just be revenues off of the reserve transfers is what we're proposing to do. Pull up the policy here. Any questions from council on this policy?
No questions? Discussion? Counselor Cutler.
So this went through the Emergency Response Committee,
Emergency Services
or
Committee.
Emergency Services Committee. Can I just get a couple, whoever's on that committee, speak to I love my fire department. I love that it's a resource that we have in this community. It's a great resource. My only concern is we give these volunteers tax incentives, then the next group's gonna want tax incentives, and the next group's gonna want tax incentives. Is the $1,000 of taxes what keeping them from getting people on the fire department? That's my dialogue.
Counselor Kittles.
And I'll defer to Councillor Zimmer as the senior member on that committee, but the discussion from Chief White was that it would be impactful. He felt it would be another tool in the tool belt to help recruitment. I think the fire department is, yes, we have many volunteers in town. I think the fire department's maybe a beast of a little bit different nature. I would kind of, in my mind, I defer to Chief White if he felt this was a useful tool and clearly was willing to put his dollars where it counts, is that he's using up some of his own transfers to cover the program. I think he's fairly committed to it, so I was pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, I guess just to add on that, I don't think anybody's approached and said they needed money off as where I think you're going with that. I think it's just, like you say, just an incentive to be like, I think they're not, I don't know if struggling's the word I want to use or whatever like that, but to find the volunteers that take the time seriously now just isn't there from what and I might be misreading what I thought about that too, but to find people to take the time to volunteer that want to is getting harder and harder as the years go on. And to help retain as well, not to just recruit, but it also helps retain too. It's not a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's a little bit for the, I can't remember what stat he said, how many people qualified for hours and stuff like that last year or whatever like that, but.
Well, I think you can base it on, like I say, 11,000.
Yeah, but it's not like
worth,
if
so-
everybody's, right?
And I also brought up with them the fact that it's not available to everybody, which is a little bit of a naggler for me, right? It's not available to the MD guys. It's not available to those who rent. But again, Chief White said they've had, fairly extensive conversations within their own departments with their own volunteers, and he did not really see that as a barrier when I asked him specifically. So again, I guess I have to defer to his expertise in that.
Abe?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, echo a little bit what Councillor Kettles and Zimmer are saying. Chief White has connected with the municipalities who have this in place, and Picture Butte and Coaldale. And they have said it has made a difference in retaining volunteers, so.
And we want to make a decision on this tonight, is that correct? So then I got another question then. I mean, I get it, and again, it's Mike, so I get, hey, we're gonna put our $15,000 instead of deferring it into our reserves, and we're gonna pay off those types of things, but those reserves are what's gonna pay for a new building that we're gonna end up paying for later anyhow. So Peter and Paul and Henry and Frank are all just kind of stealing from each other. I get it, I understand, I'm a part of the physician recruitment, I get the retention recruitment piece. I also believe that 7 out of the 12 who get this benefit, what about the other 5 who don't get a benefit? I see that it works in Coaldale and stuff, I just have those questions and worry about the efficacy and the continuity of the whole program.
Did they mention about, just asking the question, what you said, Mike, was some get it, some don't get it? How do they pan that out with their organization?
Yeah, so it's not eligible to MD staff, so any volunteers who, I shouldn't say MD staff, any volunteers who actually own property or live in the MD would not be eligible. It's not, this is something that we can only offer as a town to town residents, right? Also, those who are renting, who are not property owners, who don't pay the property tax, would not be eligible for it either.
You'd have to be a homeowner within the town limits. Same thing with the business, I think is the same thing. Your business has to be within town limits as well.
But like you said, they've had internal conversations and the group were okay with this kind of program, but that's good for this year, and then a couple more that don't recruit. So I just miss, not being a part of the conversation, you just miss the context, a lot of that stuff. It just, to me, doesn't seem like what's gonna be a solution for their current problem, but.
Yeah, and I think Councillor Cutt, you raised some concerns about the policy, some legitimate concerns. There is no ultimate solution.
Right.
It, as Councillor Kettle says, it is one strategy to help an issue.
And, yeah, I do believe Chief White knows that this isn't gonna solve everything, but it's,
And they're an essential service, like, where would we be if we were short 6 guys on that fire department?
This could be a debate for many hours, because Karis thinks that their volunteers are an essential service too, right? And so do everybody. I get it. I mean, and the other thing I get from the community too, they're not volunteers. They all get paid. Right? They get paid billable hours. So, I mean, this is where this debate can go on for hours. I'm not trying to cause a ruffle, I just had some questions.
Yep. Can we have a motion on the floor?
I'll make the motion to adopt policy 5.1.25.
Perfect. Question?
Moved by Counselor Zimmer to adopt policy number 5.1.25, the volunteer firefighter tax credit policy, effective November 25th, 2024.
All in favor? Opposed? Approved. Request for direction, 5.G.1. Abe?
So there will be a municipal general election next year. That takes place Monday, October 20th, 2025. There have been a number of changes to the Local Authorities Election Act and the MGA that affect elections. And as well, there are some provisions that council can exercise for elections. Some existing provisions that council can exercise for elections. So there's a few items for council's consideration on this request for direction. Some of them are new due to the amendments, and some of them are existing. And they have a time period by which council needs to make a decision, which is the end of the year, December 31st, if they wish to exercise those options. So the first one is nominations. The municipality can, or the council can, provide more than one location to receive nominations. Nominations, if you recall, council nominations open January 1st of the election year. Previously, they would have opened 6 weeks, I think, before, or a month maybe before the election. So now, the year of the election, they open January 1st. And so council can provide more than one location to receive nominations, but must do so by way of bylaw prior to December 31st, 2024. That is probably more relevant for larger areas. Administratively, we feel the best way to do it here in Claresholm is just to have one place, which would be the town office. A deposit. This is something that provision has been, or option has been available to councils and municipalities for a long time, but as set out in the Local Authorities Election Act, council can choose to require a deposit to accompany the nomination papers. A deposit must be established by bylaw and passed no later than December 31st, prior to the year of the election. The deposit, in the case of a municipality which has a population less than 10,000, may not exceed $100. The candidate will receive the deposit back if the candidate is declared elected, the candidate obtains at least half the number of votes than the candidate elected to office with the least number of votes, or the candidate withdraws at any time within the nomination period or within 24 hours after the close of the nomination period. So if council wants to exercise this option, they would have to also, again, pass a bylaw prior to December 31st. You'll see some municipalities choose this one, some don't. Claresholm hasn't in the past. However, This is an option that could, I guess, encourage serious candidates to apply, and we'd be open to having that, administratively open to having that requirement, if council's in favor of that. Campaign expense limits. No candidate shall, according to the LGA, Local Authorities Election Act, Section 147.34, no candidate shall incur campaign expenses that exceed the amounts determined by the regulations. The limit of campaign expenses currently is up to $20,000 for mayor candidate or councillor candidates. So council must provide administration with direction to formulate a bylaw, which must be passed prior to December 31st, to lower the amount of campaign expense limits to amount less than determined by the Local Authorities Election Act. And then qualifications of candidates. So this would be a new one, council. Essentially, an option for council to require criminal record checks to accompany nomination papers. And so a lot of municipalities in the province right now are actually reviewing this option. Administratively, we wouldn't do anything with these criminal record checks if council wanted it, but it would accompany the nomination papers, and then people who want to see the nomination papers would be able to see the criminal record checks as well. Those are public. Those are open for public inspection, those nomination papers. So people could potentially view those nomination papers and the criminal record check. City of Edmonton has already reviewed this and decided not to require a criminal record check. It looks like the City of Calgary is discussing this currently. It's currently at the council table, so we don't have a decision there. Some concerns that we have heard in doing a bit of research administratively from different municipalities that have discussed exercising this requirement is whether or not the crimes would be relevant. There's some relevancy issues, some time issues if there is a criminal record, and who's to say what should be deemed not appropriate for council, I guess. Those are some of the questions. People are being punished for things that have happened a long time ago, in another lifetime kind of thing. So, and you can see some of those conversations, I guess, if you look at the City of Edmonton's, they had a lively conversation, the council did, about that. So, administratively, we're not necessarily pushing for this. We don't feel it's needed. But however, council can make that decision, have that conversation.
Discussion. Councillor Greta.
So, thanks, Abe, administration, for this information. I agree with the one spot. There's no sense having two spots in Claresholm. I'm not a big fan of the $100 deposit. A, because we've never done it before, and B, if the loser loses, he still loses his $100. He doesn't even get his $100 back. The guy who wins gets his $100 back, so I don't think that's fair. I didn't spend $20,000 on my campaign, so I think it's okay to be there. And again, that was my exact question, was what deems inappropriate for council? Is there a guideline through MGA or through any local authorities or anything? Because, yeah, if I did something when I was 17 and saw I didn't, but if it shows up, what deems inappropriate for council? Is that what Edmonton talked about mostly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what would be my struggle.
And there are currently, there is legislation that disqualifies candidates. So if you've been convicted of election fraud, these provisions have been in place. This legislation has been in place previously. If you're convicted of election fraud, if you owe the municipality X amount of dollars, or in arrears on your taxes.
On your taxes and stuff, yeah.
And there are one or two other items that would disqualify a candidate from being nominated.
Not your town bill, just your taxes.
So the criminal record check, there's nothing administratively, looking in the legislation, that we do with that, other than accompany it with the nomination paper, which essentially it's there for other nominees or other candidates to inspect. So that's all we can see, Ed Green.
It's not required federally.
Right.
The only province in Canada that's done this is Saskatchewan, and only a few municipalities have adopted this. Not that that should make you up your mind, but
No.
Discussion, questions?
could I just speak up a little bit to the deposit thing? I can see why you're a little bit miffed about the $100. $100 is not a lot. And I guess, like, I've seen a lot of elections here, and it's more about the frivolous ones. It's like somebody who, for whatever reason, puts her name forward, and it's not really all that, not that people aren't legitimate, but you know, you get somebody who runs for a councillor position and gets 15 votes, you know, like, it's trying to, like, are they just there to stir things up, and like, how valid is this? Because the thing is they get their deposit back. You get your deposit back if you're elected, or if you get half the number of votes that whoever is. So with the 6 councillors, you take the 6th person, you take their number of votes
Right.
they got. If they got half that number of votes, they still get their deposit back. It's just kind of another check. Lots of municipalities do this, and I don't feel like it's going to stop people from running necessarily, but I think it kind of legitimizes our municipal election a little bit. But that's,
I think in our
Just my-
nomination papers, we actually did have a $50 deposit written on it.
it's
don't-
on
I
the
don't
papers,
think-
but it's
yeah.
not required right now.
Counselor Kettle?
I'll be honest, I only really paid attention to the last election, but I don't think we've had those frivolous candidates to date that I'm aware of.
Coming.
I'm not in favor really of fixing the problem until we see it's a problem, and I realize that'll be 4 years down the road, but I don't know. Frivolous people have interesting opinions as well.
Well, it's just, I get where you've done this for years and you've seen it,
I was trying to explain it.
but my only concern is, I maybe think some of those people intend on running and they have, you know, they only get so many votes, but to me, it's just, I don't know, it's just, I hear what you're saying.
Do we have a direction for men? I agree with the $100 deposit. The criminal record check, what does that do? Except if somebody comes in and asks, they can view it. Is that correct?
Yes. There is explicit legislation in there that says what we can and can't redact of a criminal record check. And the only thing that we can redact is address information, contact information of the person's criminal record check. It's very explicitly trying to find a reason, understanding of why this legislation has come into place, and I think that's your answer right there. It's to give others access to people's personal information, and some of which might not be administratively, my personal opinion, some of which may not be relevant, but might be used against a potential candidate. So,
Turning it from that municipal government to that
Provincial government to have that little battle back and forth. Yeah.
I suspect it's coming anyway. But
Not this time.
Well, I get it, like, anything I'm the president of the Kinsman Club, I have to get a criminal record check done.
And a vulnerable sector.
And a vulnerable sector, right? I get it, but until there's pathways and guidances of how to use it, what do we have it for? That's my concern. Comes up and shows some guy had an assault charge in 1992. Does that disqualify him? That, there's no guideline that says these qualify as disqualification, these don't. That's my only concern, is if there's nothing to guide the process of using the information, what's the sense of having the information? Right? I mean, everybody has it. You're right, it probably is coming where you're going to be, but hopefully when that comes, there'll be a mandate of these disqualify somebody, right? That's my only. Right. Hey, if we want to charge $100, I'm okay with that.
I have not got a problem with the $100 either.
So,
I'm okay with the $100 deposit, yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
You just have to win, right?
so
Is that $100 included in my $20,000 campaign finances?
Ah, good point. I think so. You gotta take that out of it.
I take that out of it?
Not
That
over and above.
20,000.
Ah,
Well, much.
so I think we have a consensus, correct?
I do need
$100?
a motion to direct us to do up the bylaw.
Counselor Cutler,
Yes, I'm dropping.
question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to direct administration to develop a bylaw requiring candidates to submit a deposit of $100 when submitting nomination papers.
All in favor? Approved. Financial report, 5B. Jennifer.
So I have the financial report here ending October 31st of this year, obviously. I've highlighted a couple notes on the income statement by function or department. So the net municipal taxes appears in excess of the 100%, but this is net requisitions. So as of the date of this report, all of the 2024 school requisitions, along with Porcupine Hills Lodge requisition, has been paid. General administration revenue indicates a 68% in addition to revenues over budget. As previously reported, I believe last month, the actuals do include proceeds on the sale of property, which will be transferred as part of the year-end process to the Land and Development Reserve. So the actual revenues are above by more around 2% compared to the 68 that it's showing from the property sales. Fire revenues are in excess of the budget by 41% as of October 31st. Fees for fire services are invoiced as calls are responded to. This is a difficult revenue to estimate as call volumes are unpredictable, and try to be conservative on those budget numbers. Bylaw revenues as well are up. A lot of this is related to dog licensing and cleanup fees. There are costs associated to the municipality with cleanup fees as well. So some of the revenue is offset within the expenditures related to cleanup. Revenues for water, sewer, garbage, and recycling are on par, so they're averaging around 80% or just over as of October 31st, and there's still 2 commercial billings and 1 bi-monthly residential billing to go out before the end of the year. Parks and Recreation has generated some additional revenue this year as the campground remained open through the month of October, and it generated about $12,000 in revenues during that time. So, and pool activities have remained active as well. They did have a shutdown, though, I believe in November for cleanup at the pool, so probably see a little bit of a decline in the upcoming month. Overall expenditures, I didn't highlight one in particular in this area, as I do have schedules to go through with related to water and supply distribution. It does appear a little bit low in some areas as far as expenditures go, but as we move into the winter season and activities, obviously the snow removal that's taken place now over the last couple of days, as well as year-end entries like transfers to reserves and such will start taking place towards the end of the year. On the next report, I do have my notes here. I noticed that it looks like when it changed to PDF, it cut off a few notes, so I apologize, but I'll go through them here. So again, highlighted on the revenues, just that excess due to the requisitions. In this income statement, it also includes revenues for franchise fees from ATCO and Fortis. Interest earned has been stable, and this is reflected in the higher interest rates based on the investments that we have currently that were locked in at higher rates. As well, the interest earned on the general account is still relatively good. So based on this trend, it's anticipated that the interest earnings will be slightly higher than anticipated for the end of the year. Some additional revenues that have been earned are from penalties on outstanding tax and utility bills. The next tax penalty will be issued on all outstanding balances as of December 31st and will get recorded in the next year. Other revenue lines include revenues earned from fire services, which were identified on the previous income statement. And overall, they're looking good as well. I had noted again that amortization isn't budgeted for and is budgeted for, but is a year-end entry. So that's, you don't see any cost there until the year-end entries are done. And overall expenditures, again, are in line. I do anticipate an increase over the next few months, obviously, as winter work commences and we finalize costs. I'll just move to the schedule, unless there's some questions on that before I move to the schedule. So for the schedule, I highlighted the water department. User fees, penalties, and costs around 77%, just on this particular area. So still looking good as of October 31st. I think it was noted at the Audit and Finance Committee that there's some, I think, self-conservation that took place throughout the summer months. And then June was obviously wetter than what we've seen in the past. So maybe not the excessive use that we may have seen in other years. And as far as expenditures go, salaries, wages, and benefits and everything is looking pretty good. The salaries, wages, and benefits do look a little bit low. There has been some transition there with the staffing, and I know they have hired a new utility operator who started today, actually. So that's good news for the department. And the interest on long-term debt, that is just the annual debenture payment. There's 2 payments made in the year, so the second payment will happen in December on that. So that is a quick summary. The only other comment probably is just with regards to materials, goods, and supplies. There has been additional chemical use and expense this year just due to the quality of the water that's been entering the plant. So as a result, that particular line item is over budget, but it looks like there may be some room in some other areas to offset that.
Questions?
Looks good.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CAO report.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Councillor Ross, question?
Moved by Councillor Ross to accept the consolidated statement of operations for the month ended October 31st, 2024 as presented.
All in favor? Approved. 5.I, CAO report. Abe?
Yeah, this is a report for council and the community of the activities of administration over the last month. We've got corporate services, development, fire department, bylaw, economic development, operations, utilities on there for your information, council. Any questions or comments on anything?
Take it for information. Council committee report. Anything you want to add? Report? Take it for information. Council resolution status.
Still, we haven't given them enough work, yeah, eh?
It'll come. They got enough stuff to worry about.
Information items, any questions? Discussion. Could I have a motion to accept the information items? Counselor Cutler. Question?
Moved by Counselor Cutler to adopt the information items as presented.
All in favor? Approved. Okay.
I'll make a motion to go in camera.
Good job. Thank you, Counselor Zimmer. All in favor? Oh, question.
Moved by Counselor Zimmer to go in camera at 8:40 PM for the following items. A, confidential evaluations, FOIP Section 19. B, local public body confidences, FOIP Section 23.
All in favor? Approved. Camera off, please. Motion to come out of in camera, please. Counselor Kettles, question?
Moved by Counselor Kettles to come out of in camera at 9:11 PM.
All in favor? Approved.
I'm going to declare a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Could I have a motion, please? Counselor Cutler. Question?
Moved by Counselor Cutler to reappoint Donna Meister to the Claresholm Public Library Board.
All in favor? Approved. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Oh, question.
Moved by Counselor Ross that the meeting adjourn at 9:13 PM.
All in favor? Approved.
Camera.
Camera off.
Camera off.